Good evening and welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the Constitution, the law, and the events of today to you each month. Good evening and welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the law, the news, and the political events into the Constitution and discussed each month with myself, James Barrett, and Mark Malachowski. Mark, what are we covering tonight?
Well, we're going to talk about Donald Trump and his concerns about China. And what's going on is there's about $200 billion a year in IP theft that China takes from the United States.
But wait a minute, we're talking about intellectual property that's protected under U.S. law and international law. Why would China be able to take all that international theft of IP?
Well, for one thing, nobody wants to admit it.
Nobody admits it.
Nobody wants to admit it because there's been some sweetheart deals between people in the government in China, our government in China, and they've been paid quite well to kind of like look the other way on this. But the $200 billion worth of IP theft that China takes from Americans every year is equal to everything we export to Asia.
Well, wait a minute. We already know that Asia has trade barriers to our products anyway, but we're handing them the IP. But aren't we buying those same products back from Asia?
Well, we're buying back our stuff.
Our stuff.
It's kind of like someone steals your bicycle and you go down to the swap meet and buy it back.
And you buy it back because you want your bike back.
Yeah, I want my bike back. You know, so that's what we're doing. Now, what the issue is that what happens when people spend billions and billions of dollars developing products, whether you're doing semiconductor, whether you're doing drugs. People spend hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, formulating a drug or designing a electronic system or something like that, any kind of IP stuff, and everyone else in the world has to pay royalties, but Chinese doesn't.
Well, I understand it's not just China, but China's the main culprit.
It's pretty much China.
Yeah, and to develop a new drug, it can easily cost $200 to $300 million.
More than that.
And that's the thing. I mean, when you're talking about any type of
medical devices, injectables, pills, anything like that. And so usually you get a patent that's going to last you 16 years, and that's how you make your money back, right? Off the idea. This is intellectual property. Silicon Valley is built on intellectual property, right? Now, why do the Chinese get to steal our intellectual property and we don't say boo? Why?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that people believe that the trade and that we have in the exchange is some kind of beneficial to us.
Well, also a lot of presidents and foundations went over there and gave lunch speeches for a couple $100 million and got little couple $100 million tips, and so they look the other way on this. So, but what happens here is that if Germany does IP theft, right, then we can sue them in San Francisco or LA or New York in federal court, and then there's full faith and confidence. And we can go to Bonn or Berlin, and we can take that money out of a bank account. But we can't do that for China.
Well, I do know this, that there's international trade agreements that are supposed to be protecting our intellectual property, our patents, our trademarks, and all of that. In fact, China has recently said that they would abide by that.
Well, that's not worth the paper it's written on.
That's not
it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Or the language it's written
so,
on.
but the thing is, in the last 10 years, so China stole about $2 trillion worth of
$2 trillion
worth of intellectual property. So why don't there's Chinese money in American banks, right? There's Chinese who have real estate. That should be confiscated. I mean, let's take them to federal court, and if an American can prove that they stole this, we should attach that money.
That'd be something like what we did with Iran when we froze all their money.
Because you've got these
You would
pirates.
have to freeze it first before you did any
I mean,
lawsuits.
they're basically pirates, and we're paying homage to them. We're bowing down to them, and then we're buying back our stuff.
But they did invent gunpowder.
That we invented. Okay, and so, all right, and so what happens when you spend all this money and you spend all this blood, sweat, and tears to invent things, and China just steals it outright and sells it to the rest of the world? The problem is not only is the loss of revenue, which is trillions of dollars, okay, but also the inventor gets no reward. The entrepreneur makes no reward. There's no incentive to invent. And that's what's been destroying our economy in a big way.
Well, I do know this, is that the adage, if you're having something manufactured in China, is if you don't make your profit in the first 2 years, you might as well forget it. And maybe that's a long time, but I do know people that do manufacture in China. They say if you don't make it in the first 2, it's gone. You're not going to make it anywhere because China's going to flood the market.
And people say, well, you can put tariffs on the Chinese and stop them from importing things into the United States. But what about the product that intellectual property they steal and they sell to France and they sell to South America? I mean, they're taking our property and they're selling it worldwide, and they've impoverished us. They've destroyed us. They've turned us into a third world country.
Well, my understanding is that they've loaned us a lot of money. So they're actually holding the power of the purse over us as well.
Well, that money should just be confiscated. They've stolen more than they've loaned us. We should attach that.
Well, if that's the case, then who are the manufacturers in China that steal all of this?
Well, the Chinese government basically is pretty simple. The mafia, or the triad, and the government and the corporations are all one thing.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a couple hundred families, right?
Right.
So, I mean, there's no difference between the government and the mafia and the corporations. They're all one unit, right?
Right.
So there's no difference between them. When the Chinese government goes in and hacks into computers, I think they hacked into the IRS, they hacked into Treasury, they know every Social Security number of every FBI guy. That's not, that's the government, right? And that government, and of course, our government lets them do it because our government's just been bribed.
Well, I understand most of the manufacturing is actually run by the Chinese military.
Yeah, well, right, but that's their whole thing is one big
happy family.
Communist dictatorship.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to mention any names, but it's people like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton that were the traitors who sold them all this IP and let them get away with this.
Well, wait a minute. That takes us back to Bill Clinton and Laval when
they
sold all the advanced missile technology to the Chinese.
And how about the Chinese guy who was in Los Alamos?
Yes,
they busted him, but then he got away.
He got
away with all the hard drives.
With all the hard drives and all the information.
So that was the Clintons. It was the Clintons. They're traitors.
But this started in the 90s then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been going on for a long time. Why do you think we're in such a depression? Why do you think we're in such a mess?
Because all our products are being stolen.
And not only that, our whole government has been sitting there taking money, bribes from the Chinese. They had the guy down here in Santa Claus worked for the post office, was a bundler for the Clintons. He had so much money, it was in his freezer. He couldn't hide it. The money's like it's like all over the place. So I mean, this is out and out theft. It's out and out treason. It's out and out kickbacks. And the point is, it's destroyed Silicon Valley, which used to manufacture all kinds of things. It doesn't manufacture anything anymore, right?
Well, it doesn't do manufacture. Everything's manufactured overseas.
It's all manufactured in China.
But it's allegedly designed here, but it's manufactured in China.
But the thing is, why don't we manufacture it here? How come we can't have jobs? How come we've got to be, devastated and poor?
Well,
how come the Chinese are making a killing on this?
This goes back to our whole little segment here. It's what is Donald Trump going to do about this?
Well, there's lots of things you could do. Okay, but number one, I think what they should have is have the trials. They can televise the trials. If the Chinese wants to show up and defend them, fine. If they don't, we'll do them by default. But I think they should have public televised trials. Those should be satellited into China. Companies that have been ripped off, people that have lost their jobs should present their case, and it can be monetized. I think it's about $2 trillion in the last 10 years.
Well, then
it's been rampant under the Obama
why are companies like Microsoft and Apple still manufacturing in China, even though they know all this is going on?
Well, they've worked out some kind of kickback agreement with them, sure.
Oh, so they're paying somebody bribes, so they don't get their stuff stolen. So it's not $1 million out the front and $2 million out the back.
But the guy in the garage, the people who are the inventors, the people who think of this stuff, they're the ones who get the shaft.
Totally.
They get the shaft. Of course, Microsoft is, when you get to be that big, Microsoft is like, oh, well, it's bad to make money. Well, you've already got money.
You've got all the money.
Of course you don't want anyone to compete with you.
That's what
making money is bad. We're going to make it impossible to make money.
This brings up a sore subject. When people that are already millionaires just tell us that we can't drive cars.
Oh, no.
You can't use energy, but we get all the energy you want.
And you can't manufacture. So wait a minute. Everything we did to control this wealth, we're now going to make illegal, so our wealth is even worth even more.
Our wealth is protected.
And so this is the oldest scam in the world. I mean,
so where are we going with this, Mark?
Okay, the thing is, we've got to take these things to federal court. Right? Solicitor General should take the Chinese government to.
But who do you serve?
Who do you serve? Yeah, you can serve the the
consulate.
You can serve the whoever's a premier, what's a Z? You can serve Z or whoever you serve, and then you prove your case in court.
Does it have to be personal service?
Personal service. It's got to be personal service. And then we got to get full faith and confidence. If they want to import anything in the United States, it's got to be full faith and confidence.
Well, I think what we have to do, yeah, I'm sorry, but I know that Donald Trump is going to be coming up with his whole plan on this.
I mean,
but I think what we ought to do now is let's move on to our next subject, because I'm getting too excited about that one. What's our next subject tonight?
Well, this one is this fight's been going on for several hundred years, or well, 150, 200 years. It's Madison versus Hamilton.
Well, wait a minute, that goes back to the beginning of our country.
And that's the General Welfare Clause.
And under the General Welfare Clause, we should.
Well, what happened is that there's a General Welfare Clause. It's the first clause of Article 1, Section 8, the U.S. Constitution. And what it says that shall provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Okay? Now, in the Constitution, there's roughly 30 enumerated clauses. Right in that article, I think there's like 14. You know, we should have an army, should have a navy, you know, the modes of commerce, the channels of commerce. Channels of commerce. So you have those basic 14 things, and then it's kind of sprinkled with the Constitution. You've got another 20 or so.
Well, you're supposed to provide for the common defense.
Right.
You're supposed to have the military that protect the common defense and protect our interests around the world.
No, but we have enumerated clauses where they say this is what the Congress is allowed.
Allowed.
Okay, now see, this is the big difference, and this is what's happened in the last 30, 40, 50, 60 years. But in the last 8 years, it's just been off the handle.
Off the charts?
Off the charts, because it's like the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not do this. You're not supposed to kill your neighbor. You're not supposed to steal. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. Well, they've changed that and said, well, we want to be prescriptive. Instead of prohibitive, it's prescriptive. So it used to be, well, what Einstein said, everything that's not forbidden is required. In other words, there's certain things that are forbidden, and you can do anything that's not forbidden, right?
Correct.
So you're free.
Right.
That's called freedom. What we now have is like the government tells you what to do. We want you to drink this. We want you to eat this. We want you to marry her. We want you to marry him, or whatever now.
And we want to have a bathroom in the middle.
Yeah, but the government tells you what to do. And so that's called prescriptive, right? And so that kind of blows the...
But what about freedom? Where's freedom?
That blows 3,000 years of civilization off the table.
Going back to Hammurabi.
You're going back to... So what's happening here is that when they use this loophole in the General Welfare Clause. With the General Welfare Clause, what Madison said was like, look, there's 30 or so enumerated clauses, things that the Congress is allowed to spend money on, right? And what they did is they took this General Welfare Clause and they said, well, we don't really believe in that prohibitive stuff. Congress can do for the general welfare. Well, the problem with the general welfare is that it's a seemingly endless pit. It never ends. I mean, welfare, it's like...
Well, let's not even go to welfare. We're not really talking about welfare.
No, but that's
the general welfare.
Okay, the seemingly infinite needs of the general welfare. So, I mean, okay, so basically, when they wrote the Constitution, they said, look, if there's a plague, we should remove the sick bodies from the street so everyone doesn't get the plague. Okay? But now it's like, oh, well, let's see. If I don't feel like getting up today, my neighbor, the government should, rob my neighbor and pay for my food.
Right.
I don't feel like going to work today. The government should rob my neighbor and pay for my house. Oh, I don't feel like going over work today. The government should rob my neighbor and give me medical care.
Well, wait a minute.
So that's what it's become.
Well, I mean, our biggest problem that we've had in the last 8 years is the idea that by executive fiat, these monies or these laws are being passed, and Congress. And I have to tell you that I am really surprised, considering how many people ran for Congress, both the congressmen and the Senate, where they said they would stop the president from all these acts.
Those are
but no one stopped anybody. And the only person with the power of the purse is Congress.
But those were Marxist shills. I mean, they were just shills. I mean, that was all nonsense. I mean, the thing is, one thing you could do is do a 28th Amendment that says that, money spent by Congress under the General Welfare Clause has to be under one of the 30 enumerated clauses, because otherwise it's just unlimited and it's prescriptive. Well, and anything that they think is a good idea, they're going to steal from, they're going to confiscate from the hardworking taxpayer.
Every year there's something called, the pig, the pork, pork deal, where they always talk about all the things that were funded that year.
Right.
It's things like the shrimp that's on the treadmill, or it's the monkeys that decide they're going to eat how many leaves today,
Right.
or giving rats narcotics to
Well,
see
I
what
don't-
happens when they get loaded.
But I mean, I think,
come on.
I think, but really, what we're talking about, we have a $3 trillion budget, right? We make roughly $1 trillion a year in taxes. We borrow the other $2 trillion from China, which is part of the kickback scheme.
It's part of the kickback
And
scheme.
so, and also, we're hopelessly in debt.
Isn't the Clinton Foundation in the middle of that somewhere?
Okay, and we're hopelessly in debt, and that's all part of Saul Alinsky's,
Yes.
like
Destroy the country.
Drive everyone deeply in debt, make everyone impoverished, and that they're dependent on their government to support.
That means that you have to look to the government. The government gets ultimate control over
Yeah,
all the
that's
populace.
because you'll do
and
what
that's
you're told.
where we're going right now.
Yeah, we're already there.
we are there.
Yeah, we're already there. So but the point is, this fight has been going on for hundreds of years, and
it's really accelerated.
Recently, the Hamiltonians have just smushed the Madisons, right?
Right.
And so now it's like, okay, the government's job is to slit my neighbor's throat, take his wallet, and the government takes $90 and gives me 10. That's about the ratio. So about 90% of what the U.S. government does is pure out theft and gangsterism. About 10% actually goes to
help. Yeah.
Now you can look at it a couple of ways, but it's really outright mobster gangsterism. We're so far from the Constitution, that we're so far from having any freedoms, that when you get to a prescriptive government that tells you what to do instead of telling you what not to do, you're living in basically a Marxist dictatorship.
Wait a minute. You're actually stating that our government is on the verge of dictatorship, if not authoritarian regime.
It's already gone. But I mean, they rigged the last couple of elections. They've got mobsters running around. They've broken every law in the book. I mean, our U.S. government is no more free than the Chinese government or the Russian government or Pol Pot or anybody else.
But maybe they feel that's the best way. And when you have to look to the nanny state, the best way is the children don't know, so daddy knows best.
Well, it's a dictatorship. It's the Maoist philosophy that, the
little red book
of the contradiction, that in order to be free, you have to obey the dictator.
Yeah, but see, obey the dictator means you automatically give up your freedoms and you don't have much opportunity beyond the fact that when the little red book is handed out around the White House table, the rest of us have to live by it.
Well, no, you don't have to live by it. Like, say, what Mao did, he just killed off a third of his population. He killed off.
We got rid of the dissidents.
He got killed.
Unfortunately, the dissidents were normal people like doctors and professors.
He killed 65 million out of 200 million.
Well, that's not bad. That's not even half.
And, but he didn't just kill them, he tortured them. So, I mean, and that's kind of where we're going.
Well, you had to find out where their money was.
Yeah. Well, he had to get them to confess. Yeah.
Confess to all their crimes.
But what I'm saying here is this is a huge thing, and there is a convention of states some people are trying to put together for an amendment to kind of slow this down. And I'm saying this push and pull has been going on for hundreds of years. But at this
What's it going to take, Mark?
But at this point, I think it would take a constitutional amendment to get it back.
Constitutional amendment, which means you're going to have to call together the states. And I'm going to leave it right there because I know one thing, to call together what would be a continental Congress, so to speak, to be able to make those votes would be nearly impossible. But listen, let's hold that. What is our third subject for the night?
Well, the third subject is about San Francisco, which is a town just down the street.
A town just down the street.
And, the SF's cutthroats stabbed a CHP officer the other day. Andrei Sorenko was in critical condition after
What was that officer doing?
Well, there's like collections of bums and deadbeats and vagrants, right, who are living off the government dole, and they have these encampments. He went there to kind of search them and clean them up, and they slit his throat.
Well, who was there? Who was he with?
Well, he was probably with some other officers, but I think he was outnumbered.
How did his throat get slit then?
Well, he's pretty outnumbered. And also, the police aren't really allowed to do anything more because these people have immunity by the kind of the Marxist elite of San Francisco, because this is a huge cash cow for the Marxist elite. Every bum or cutthroat, right? And people go, oh, those poor bums. Well, look at those bums. They got tattoos. They've done prison time. A lot of them have done murders. A lot of them have little
cell phones.
They got some teardrops. But also they've done time, and they have deadly weapons on them, right? And so if 3 or 4 of these little bums or deadbeats or cutthroats outnumber you, a taxpayer, they will kill you, right? Just like they did to a British tourist, Paul Tam, an IT guy.
I did hear Paul Tam. In fact, in broad daylight, wasn't he?
No, it was dark. It was dark.
Oh, it was dark. Oh, thank God.
But he was there with his niece. He was visiting his niece. He's walking on the street in a very nice neighborhood near Japantown, and they wanted his phone and his wallet, and they stabbed.
Did he give it to him?
Well, he was just trying to run away. and they stabbed him.
They didn't like that.
They stabbed him in the face and killed him. So they basically killed him.
Poor Paul.
And so this kind of thing is a huge revenue source for the
what, stabbings?
Oh yeah, it's a huge revenue source for the city of San Francisco. The Marxist elite makes $1.45 billion a year, and every time someone gets stabbed, that's actually an advertisement for them for more bums and cutthroats to come to the city, because that increases their revenue source.
Oh, that means that more people on the dole means more profit for the city.
Okay.
Wait a minute, is that why they're building all the new buildings now, so they're going to have more bums come to town and stab tourists?
They get more money off the deadbeats and bums and cutthroats than they do off the buildings.
Well, I have a question. Why don't they just arrest them or shoot them?
Because they're a cash cow.
Cash cow.
Okay, look, every bum makes about $5,000 a month off the dole.
$5,000 a month?
Yeah, that's
to do what?
To go around and stab people. That's their base pay.
I don't know about
that's their base pay.
But $5,000 a month isn't bad. Now you get food on top of that.
No, well, no, but that's basically with food. That's your welfare payments. That's your dole. You make about $5 grand a month, and then you can go out and rob and murder. You make another $10,000, $15,000 a month. So you do pretty well. And then the police can't touch you because you're basically a federal agent, right? So they won't. They're not going to do anything because they'll get fired, right?
Well, is this part of the sanctuary city problem, or is this just the homegrown bums?
These are U.S. bums. Well, they come from all...
The combo bums.
Okay, 20 years ago, Mayor Frank Jordan said, okay, he said all the deadbeats and murderers and stuff, there's free sandwiches on the bus. All the bums got on the bus. He drove them down to Daly City. He said all free sandwiches in the park. 6,000 bums got in the park. Daly City called up, the mayor called up Daly City and said, Frank, take back your bums. Frank Jordan, the mayor of San Francisco at this time, 25 years ago, when the street was clean and safe. Last time it was a clean place.
Well, it's 25 years ago.
25 years ago. You used to be as nice as Singapore or Paris. Now it's just like Tijuana.
Oh, it's worse than Tijuana.
There's like human excrement everywhere. There's blood everywhere. The streets are blood stained.
They made it illegal to charge people for defecating in the streets.
Well, not only that, for slitting someone's throats, you get a Cupid doll.
Well, wait a minute, Cupid doll.
Yeah,
wait a minute. I understand you get OR'd and you get probation.
Yeah.
It's only one throat.
Yeah.
Only one throat.
But the point of the matter is, okay, then when Agnos took over and said, oh, we want all the bums back. And they let them come back on the
because it was a profit zone.
Yeah, Civic Center Plaza, and they live there right on the plaza.
Come on down, man.
And so every bum from everywhere on the planet starts
bring them all.
And
bring them all. Did they fly them in?
They make, yeah, they do. Actually,
Vegas
actually flies them in.
Oh.
Okay, but the point is, they make $500,000 a year for each bum and cutthroat. Okay, the city embezzles 90% of that. So for every month, a bum makes $5,000, but the city gets to embezzle $45,000.
Oh my God.
And so
that adds up.
It adds up.
It's a profit zone.
So the more bums and cutthroats you have, the better.
My God, that's better than Apple.
And so every time they kill someone and mug them, and that's on the press. That
attracts
more. And it's just
wait a minute, is this why the sanctuary city's in place, because they get more bums from Mexico?
Well, but they're from worldwide.
Worldwide bums.
But the point of the matter is,
do they have passports?
What it comes down to, no, they don't have.
How do they get here?
They don't have anything. But the point is like when you look at this, out of this $1.5 billion a year that they get, they could buy every cutthroat, every deadbeat, a $500,000 condo every year. Every year they could buy each one a condo. But instead they embezzle most of that. Okay, so they give them $50,000, they embezzle roughly $500,000 for each one, right?
That adds up.
And so you're thinking, well, this is good. Actually, it turns out the more the government embezzles, the better. Because otherwise you'd have 10 cutthroats killing the taxpayer and the workers. So it's actually, the more the government embezzles, the better, because that keeps the people safe.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
So that's how it all works out.
Is that the formula for this?
That's the new formula.
The new formula is pay the bums a lot of money. That means they won't necessarily kill everybody.
No, they keep killing.
They keep killing.
No, but the point is,
they keep killing even when they get paid.
But the thing is, the government program to hire bums to kill people and hire deadbeats and ex-cons to kill people, the government embezzles 90% of that. So actually, it's good the government embezzles it, or you'd have a lot more murders.
Well, wait a minute. It seems like the city should bring in rent-a-bums.
Yeah,
they all for head counts. The rent-a-bum head count.
And then it costs police and fire about $500 million a year to clean up the mess.
Well, who's paying for that?
Well, the people who work in
the people.
Taxpayer.
So
the Marxist elite
in the companies.
The Marxist elite is making a bundle on this. I mean, they just make a bundle, and it's just a haven for.
Is it caviar and champagne over
caviar
bums?
and champagne. Okay. So anyway, this was Paul Tam, a 44-year-old male, was visiting the city of England, 23-year-old NEET, walking back to their hotel near Post and Franklin Streets, when an unknown male and female attacked them, killed them.
Both or one?
She survived.
Oh, thank God.
So they took his bag, cash, credits, a cell phone, a victim's passport. So basically, it's not a matter if you're a taxpayer, a hardworking citizen, and you're walking in San Francisco, it's not a matter of if you'll get your throats cut. It's a matter of when, because it's just a bonanza. The police can't touch these guys. They can't touch them.
Why is that?
Because they have immunity. The judges won't convict them, and the police get fired if they confront them.
Well, I got to tell you something. Wouldn't it be better if I like to go back to the Mayor Giuliani technique, where you start by enforcing the law at the bottom and then it works its way up the chain? But San Francisco obviously says, forget the chain of enforcement. We're bringing in the rent-a-bubs.
No, it's what you can.
There is no chain of enforcement. It's called the rent-a-bub land. Bring them on in. We'll make it a sanctuary city. Now we'll have international rent-a-bubs.
Well, but the point of the matter is that it's the American people. The federal taxpayer money gets funneled to the city.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So wait a minute.
That's where the $1.45 billion comes from.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and so that's embezzled off the top. So it's a huge, huge industry.
Yeah, but you know, why are people that even talk about this treated as so somehow we don't understand the plight of the bum?
Well, I mean, the thing is,
I don't understand that part of it.
You know, the thing about this, the thing is these deadbeats, these cutthroats, are holding deadly weapons, but the police aren't allowed to search them. But your taxpayer individual walking down the street can't have a gun, can't have a concealed carry, and if he gets outnumbered, he will be killed in mud.
But what if I have a knife that I'm going to slit a bum's throat?
Well, that's different.
That's completely different.
You don't have immunity.
No more bum.
You're not on the dole.
But I'm not on the dole.
You're not a cash cow.
In fact, I'm not a cash cow.
Right.
That means I'm not protected by the Marxist people that lead the city.
Because these are basically federal agents, is what they are.
Federal agents.
That's really their
Well, I have a question. What if there's a new election and maybe somebody changes? What are they going to do with all the bums? What if they just turn the spigot off of the bum money?
Well, there would be actually some good things you could do with that money. Okay, actually some good programs. They used to have the WIN program, right? And that WIN program would take somebody that was a vagrant or indigent, and it would pay their salary for a year.
Wow.
So they could work for a company.
Wow.
And the federal government of the state would pay their salary for a year. And if they worked out, then they'd...
But they'd get off the monthly bum dole.
Yeah, well, but not only that, they'd learn a trade.
Oh.
And they wouldn't be out murdering and mugging people.
I like this much better. Why don't you educate them and put them to work?
And so, but this, instead of like paying them to mug people and sell drugs and defecate on the street, you could actually pay them to work. And that'd be good for the businesses.
Well, you know, in Vallejo,
and it'd be good for the indigents.
Wait a minute, I'm going to give you an example. In Vallejo, they pay people not to commit murder. When the people get out of prison, they pay the prisoners, please don't murder, we'll give you so much money a year. If you promise not to murder anyone, we'll keep paying you.
Well, that's like the Chinese IP protection. But what I'm saying, there are programs that have worked in the past, but this is such a bonanza for the Marxist elite. They're making so much money.
My God, no wonder.
They don't want to let this go.
My God, they'd be buying goes for every part in City Hall.
Okay,
but anyway, I will tell you this. I want to know for the future show is what we're going to do as two educated young men that stand and look out at the city of San Francisco and go, do I want to go to the city and walk the streets, or do I just want to not do that?
Well, I think it'd be a good idea to have concealed carry.
Okay.
Because it's a dangerous place now.
Well, we'll be carrying that. We'll be carrying that concealed carry during our next show. Anyway, thank you so much for this evening, and joining Law Talk with the talk of the town and the talk of the news. Everybody have a wonderful evening. So, Mark, I gotta tell you,
I didn't get to Mark.